it's just 11 o'clock, so we're going to kick off, but in a slightly unusual format, if that's okay. I just want to introduce you to what's changed since yesterday. The world changed yesterday for us all. I see a chat coming in.
Just
okay.
me.
Cool. So thank you, Eamon. So let me just tell you briefly, if I may, touch on what happened yesterday, and then we get into the show proper. Let me start by saying thank you to all who've turned up in the Coffee at 11 show this morning as audience members. Thank you very much indeed. Cafe goers, earwiggers, as they've become to be known, right? But let me explain. Yesterday we had a traumatic experience, any of us that were on the show, and for what it's worth, I reached out to as many as I could remember were on the show yesterday, but the brain was a bit fogged. So if I didn't get to you and you were on the show yesterday, would you just send me a private message, please? To apologise that it happened at all, that it happened on my watch. It was traumatic for all of us. And also to put it out there that the bitter irony of it is I serve on the board of CARI, Children at Risk in Ireland, which as a charity looks after the needs of people who have been affected by what we were exposed to yesterday. And I had been speaking to the former head of therapy there the night before. She was to come on the show yesterday, didn't, and sent me a message last night to apologise that she never made it. So I rang her and said, you won't believe what actually happened. She then made the offer to be of service to anybody who was on the show yesterday that was exposed, if they'd like to have a conversation. So I've put that out to as many people as I could remember were on the call. Forgive me, please, if I didn't, if I missed you in that. I'll just put it out there now. Anyway, it threw me into a tailspin, as you can imagine yesterday. Difficult day. Sorry.
Colm, while you're taking a moment, I have to say, I think it showed a measure of you yesterday in your response to what happened. Was very admirable. And like you said yourself last week, crisis doesn't create character, it reveals it. And also something that springs to mind, Shakespeare, I am wealthy in my friends. That's definitely come up to light in the last 24 hours. Well done, you.
Yeah, thank
how
you
you responded.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. And thanks for coming in there. Apologies. Look, that's what, actually, I was just about to say, it took me 25 takes to make the video last night that went out. That's exactly what happened each time. Tough. Anyway, I want to start by thanking you all for coming on here in a show of solidarity. They're not going to win. There's good and there's evil in the world. Didn't realize this little idea of a show is a force for good, but it turns out it is. And if it wasn't, it wouldn't have been attacked, right? We were attacked yesterday blatantly, and we're back today. And a couple of people I just want to mention, Amanda Delaney was to be my guest on the show today. And she would have willingly come on the show because that's the measure of the woman she is. But I asked her not to because I wanted to invite my guest, Liam Lynch, on today, specifically because we're planting a flag here today. Cybersecurity is where it's at. It is not good enough. It is not acceptable that these evil people parachute themselves in uninvited to cause mayhem. Okay, so hats off to Amanda Delaney. Amanda will come back in to the show tomorrow week. That's Thursday week. And finally, I want to say thank you to Ciara McCullough, my lovely guest who was on the show yesterday, who reasons beyond all of our control, or circumstances beyond all our control, it failed shockingly. However, Ciara, again, the measure of the woman that she is, Ciara has agreed to come back in next Tuesday, so we won't miss out on that, which is wonderful. So we're not going to miss out on anything. In fact, we're all going to be richer for the experience, dare I say it, because we're now going to kick off the Coffee at 11 show. Thank you all for that. Oh, before I go, thank you to Princess Shelley, Katrina O'Brien, Eamon Smith, my colleagues in this little venture. Okay, folks, you are very welcome. You are very welcome to the Coffee at 11 show on Wednesday. Can't remember what date it is, doesn't matter. It's Wednesday. And delighted to have you here, delighted that you took the time out, honoured that you took the time out to join us here today. And I want to introduce you to my very special guest this morning, a man I reached out to yesterday because of the challenge that we had, a man who gave me great comfort yesterday and helped me get through the challenge and help me reconfigure the cafe so it's safer today. Liam Lynch, would you please say hello and show us your coffee mug?
Good morning, Colm and everybody, and welcome to Coffee at 11.
I love it. I love it, Liam. Let me tell you about Liam Lynch before we bring the man in himself. And today is going to be rich with content and rich with tips. But I'm going to tell you all the nice stuff that Liam said about himself in advance of that. Okay, so name Liam Lynch, business name L2 Cybersecurity Solutions. What does your business do, Liam? Cybersecurity, data protection and business continuity training and consulting. How long established? 4 years. How many employees? The man himself. Liam has had a lengthy career, 30 plus years, starting out as a programmer back in the 80s. And yes, he did put in a lot of work to prepare systems for the Y2K bug. Love that. He really liked to be hands-on with the technology, so he transitioned to supporting and managing the hardware and the companies he worked for. After 13 years with Aon, that's how you say it, AON, where he managed a team spread around the world, he chose to strike out on his own to focus on the area he was most passionate about, cybersecurity, and sharing his knowledge with small businesses. And something nobody knows about Liam, I love this, right? I was one of those fearless young fellas that drove the lifeguards on Ballybunion beach mad, as I would think nothing of climbing the cliffs there. I was there again last year and I looked at them through more mature eyes. There's not a chance I'd even think about it now. I love it. Liam Lynch, you are more than welcome.
Thank you, Colm.
For myriad reasons, you're more than welcome to Coffee at 11 show today. So now it's over to you, my friend. We'll have the chat, and it's going to start with, please tell us all on the show, who is Liam Lynch? Go back to those crazy Ballybunion days. Who were you before you got serious?
Oh, okay. I suppose it's going back into the dim and distant past of the 70s and 80s. Like I grew up in Limerick City, like that's where I'm from. But fun fact was I was actually born in Listowel because I happened to come along when my mother was down in Ballybunion. And I came early, I think a few weeks early, so that's why I was down there. I should have been born in Limerick otherwise. So I'm a Kerryman by birth. But Limerick man by every other measure. I lived there for the first 27 years of my life, before I had to move to Dublin for a couple of years. But so I grew up in Limerick. I went to JFK school on the Ennis Road there. I lived on the North Circular Road, so JFK was obviously the nearest one. But I wasn't very academically gifted, so I was unable to get into Art School Reach with passing the entrance exam because I think I'm a bit terrible at Irish. So I actually got into St. Munchin's College because I had a much cleverer brother there from years before. So I got in with what they used to call the legacy. So I spent 6 years in Munchin's because in that day they were doing this experiment with the InterCert, as it was known then, that they tried a 4-year cycle to take the InterCert. So that was a long 4 years. But I know you say I'm a large individual, but and Munchin's, of course, would be a well-known rugby school, but I'm actually terrible at rugby. I couldn't handle the ball to save my life, and all I was able to do was just go in and batter into people, in whatever way possible, and without any skill or grace or anything like that. So I was never very good at the old sporting stuff. But that was grand, and I was, as I said there, and the thing to get to know me, I was pretty fearless. I would do anything. I used to climb cliffs down in Ballybunion. I would build flaky ramps on the street and cycle off them in my bike. Nearly killed myself a few times, but just didn't stop me. But I joined the FCA back then, around the mid 80s, which for the younger people in the room, the FCA is the Reserve Army Force, but it was FCA used to usually jokingly be referred to as the Free Clothing Association, because you used to get the uniform and the shirts and the ties all for free. But the one thing anyway I found with the FCA, and I was in there for 5 years, I was with the 3rd Corps of Field Engineers. So I got to build bridges and then learn how to blow them up, which was another interesting stuff. But the thing that the FCA gave me the most was a bit of discipline in myself, and took the kind of a bit of a wild child out of me. It's still always going to be there, but I'm a bit more temperate in the way I deal with things. And the other side of things that the FCA kind of gave me was this, I just found I had a natural kind of ability towards, security of stuff, keeping, a camp secure, patrolling a perimeter, and how to, keep an eye on stuff and people acting suspiciously, which then led me on to, even after I finished college and got a full-time job as the programmer, in the evening times I used to work as a doorman in McKnight's at the top of Thomas Street. That would have been back around the late 80s, early 90s I was there. So, and that was interesting, given the location that it was, and the individuals that might pass by the door and try to get in of an evening. I got to know them well. I treated them, everybody I dealt with as much with respect, but if there was any trouble, I would be able to quell it. So so I had this kind of, I suppose, whole background like on feeling good about securing things, and I would always lead my life that way. So anything I was ever doing, I would always have a look to going writing a piece of code for a computer program. I would always make sure that there's no way that somebody could take advantage of it or break it, to exploit any bugs that might be in there. So, that's where I got into then, I suppose, my professional life.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And before we get into your professional life, let me just reflect back on a few things there. First of all, that was a lovely introduction. Thank you very much indeed. I did introduce you as a big man. You are a big man, right? And you've described that beautifully. You used to batter into fellas on the rugby field. You stood guard at the door of the McKnight's. And when you mentioned McKnight's, I'm looking around the room here. I'm thinking, I saw a few nodding heads, Sarah Ward and Princess Shelley. Oh, did I say that? I'm sorry. Anyway, but yeah, there's a protection thing in you. That's what I'm sensing. There's a protection thing in you that you mind people, right? And you mind your space. The FCA, right? Free Class Association for sure, but it was basically the reserve force. So there's something in you there, my friend, that looks after people. So it's not surprising that where you've transitioned into is protecting people in this crazy world that we live in now. So thank you for that lovely introduction. The beauty about that part of this Coffee at 11 thing is it just gets us all to know you a little bit better. It's not just a cybersecurity expert coming in. Is that okay? So thank you for that. So take us into the early programming days and how you got into L2 cybersecurity, and then L2 up until COVID.
Okay, so so I started my career with it was QBE Insurance out in Shannon. I got the job there as a programmer, as I say, and I was working on an old COBOL system. And I've recently noticed that the people over in America are looking for COBOL programmers again, because their unemployment system that they're trying to process all these people that are out of work is running on a COBOL system. So if only I could emigrate to America. I don't think I'd want to, but anyway. So I was working for QBE for 5 or 6 years. 6 years, yeah, it was 95. They shut down the Shannon operation, but through all that time, I had I'd been doing the programming, and we had seen the Y2K coming quite early, and we had our systems ready for that by about 91, 92. So we were well in advance of that. So then, as I say, they closed down the operation in Shannon, and I was made redundant. So at the time, there wasn't, because I was doing this COBOL programming on a specific type of machine, there wasn't a lot of jobs in the area for that. It was very specialised. So I had to move to Dublin then for work. So I went working for a company called EDS, EDS Ireland. They were based there in the Treasury building, which I often get to see on the news and when they're talking about the NTMA and those guys, and I go, I used to work in there. It's a nice building. But so I went to work there, but they hired me to be a senior programmer and a kind of start on a project manager track. And I was actually going to go to, supposed to be relocating to Germany to work in one of their facilities there. So I was hired and I started a month later, and I arrived in the door and they said, oh, plans have changed. You're going to stay here now. And I was there going, what? I hadn't moved to Dublin. Like, I had just gone up, got a B&B to stay for the 2 weeks I was supposed to be in Dublin before transitioning. I was going, oh crap, now I got to find accommodation. So I lucked out completely in that a few days later I had found an apartment literally 2 blocks from the Treasury building, and at a decent price as well. So that was great. So, but I got in there and the role, didn't really suit me there because it wasn't what I was expecting. I was just gone back to being, a normal programmer. It wasn't even senior programming because I had achieved that level already. So I just felt I was a bit disappointed with that. So I then found a much better job with a company called Paces. They did credit card processing software, and they had, the exact skills I had was perfect for them. Is this COBOL programming on this particular platform. So with them, I really got to my feet underground with playing with the technology because they weren't very, they weren't like the big corporations where you have a very specific job to do and that's all you can do. This was kind of, if you could change the fuse and plug, you could change the fuse and plug, or change the light bulb, change the light bulb. So it was all hands on deck, and I found I had a knack for it. And we went through an office move from the centre of Dublin out to Temple Oak, and I managed to plan all that and do all the cable, or arrange for all the cabling to be done and all the planning and all that sort of stuff. So I really found I had a real knack for the technology side of things. So that was a great job. Actually, it gave me a big exposure to international travel. We had a lot of clients all around the world, but most particularly in the kind of a Middle East region. And also we had one down in Mauritius, which I happened to get to spend 2.5 weeks down there doing an implementation for them. Fierce hardship, really. But
I have to come into this. Were there any cliffs? Cliffs in Mauritius?
Not really. There were mountains in the middle of the island, all right, which I didn't quite get to. But it's a fairly flat on the edges of the island, from what I saw anyway.
My heart bleeds for you. Listen, just a word that has come up on the Coffee at 11 show over the last number of weeks. It keeps popping up, and it's jammy, right? And jammy is where people just keep falling on their feet. So you're telling us about the Treasury building in Dublin, and then you said you looked out, and I was thinking, oh my God, he's commuting every day from Limerick. No, you found a digs or whatever, a couple of doors up the road, right? Jammy, well done you. Okay, is this the Aon piece, or can you bring it out to security now?
I was just about to I'm going to briefly run over the Aon piece, even though it was probably the longest job I ever had. So with that, I got in with a particular business unit that had offices scattered all over the world. They had just gone through a merger, it was an acquisition more than a merger really, but they'd taken over all these many diverse offices, and my role was to bring them all in a secure manner as possible, because some of the offices had pretty lax kind of setups, just wide open internet connections, things like that. So we had to bring them in a very secure manner, which I found that this really was an area that I excelled at, and I was able to help them along with. And particularly the big thing with me was always trying to keep things as simple as possible, because I wouldn't be dealing with technical people in these offices. There was rarely any IT people on site. So you're dealing with a business person, maybe a claims guy or underwriter, and you had to keep things as simple as possible. And that's what I learned and really excelled at in my time with Aon, was learning to speak to people in the simplest possible language that they can understand. I hate all this kind of corporate speak. I find it very distracting because it's like I'm having to translate it into plain English for myself. So with Aon, like I was there for 13 years. That initial business unit I was with, I managed a team of about 10 people scattered across the world. I had 2 guys in Shannon with me, and the rest were scattered in all different sorts of locations. And then when I changed my role to for the last 4 years, I managed a team of 8, 5 of them in Ireland and 3 of them scattered again around Europe. So I was managing the technology, I was managing the team, and while security and that was a big aspect of it, it wasn't an area I was allowed to really exploit or really get into in a way that I enjoyed. So I left Aon in 2014, and I started then going and getting trained up, getting some proper training on cybersecurity stuff, and that's when I came to launch L2 in 2016.
And let me come in here, Liam, thank you. I say to everybody on the show here, I put all Liam's contact details into the chat, so please make sure you make contact with this man, because when the brown material collided with the electric air rotation device yesterday in my life, right? I needed to reach out to somebody, and I reached out to Liam Lynch. And one of the reasons I reached out to Liam Lynch is because of exactly what he just said there. He does not speak tech, right? He takes the tech world and simplifies it for laymen, Egypts like me, right? And I felt comforted. That's the word that just came to me yesterday. I said it to you, Liam, on the call. I felt comforted. I wasn't bamboozled, I was just minded. So thank you for that. So L2 security, cybersecurity was set up on the basis of that. You decided you loved that piece, you were able to speak the layman's language, and it's been going swimmingly, I assume, until now. Is that a fair assumption?
Well, it had been quite successful, particularly up in 2018, where the GDPR was a fairly big hot topic for everybody. But things did get a little bit quiet, kind of late 2018, and 2019 was a bit of a challenge year. I was, barely tipping over. I was kind of, finding it, difficult to land new clients. Everybody would look at cybersecurity as being, oh, that's a cost. We have to spend money on this, and we're not going to make it. It's not going to make us any profit. And this was the thing I always had with IT was, the finance side of the house would always look at it as just, you're a cost center. You're not making us any money. So, it was difficult getting in there. Now, I had from the few years prior to 2019, I had built up a good kind of bunch of clients that were, kept on coming back reliably. And so they just, kept me tipping over. But it had been quite a challenge. And I had even been, I did a kind of a run around my cybersecurity network, all the people who have other cybersecurity companies, and I spent kind of November and December going around to them and asking them, like, how they were finding it, and they were all finding that things had gone very, very quiet, and people were, difficult to get them to open the purse strings. So, that was how 2020 kind of started. But I suppose it came up to COVID. Things were still very, very quiet, but we came to COVID, and then everything changed. That's
really interesting. When you just said everything changed, for most of us, Liam, the world fell off a cliff when, we're back to Ballybunion, of course, right? When it fell off a cliff when COVID hit. Are you telling us that your world actually went the other way?
Not quite. No, everything dried up, pretty much immediately. Everybody said, oh, that thing we've booked for you for that training or that meeting, we've cancelled.
I get it. So Liam, let me just comment on that, please. You mentioned that the finance people in companies do see what you do as a cost center. It's not adding any profit, therefore we don't need it. And as a business owner myself, I'm aware of it, I'm aware of the need. but it's not the type of thing, you know, we put money into vans and then we put money into a piece of IT software, I assume, right? I'm paraphrasing here. However, that came back to bite me yesterday, which is why I invited you on today. And I really want to say thank you on behalf of everybody for you stepping up and saying, no problem, I'll come in and have a chat. So thank you for that. It's a classic case for me of, the horses bolted, the barn door was left wide open, and here we are. But here we are. So the question is, what do we do from here? And I'm putting it to everybody on the show here, and anybody who's listening to this video in time to come, you need to take this stuff seriously, right? You need to take this stuff very seriously. It's also not a big cost, but let me ask you to reflect on that piece, Liam, if you don't mind, because regrettably, there are bamboozlers out there who come in and talk all sorts of black art, highbrow tech speak, right? And bamboozle and say, oh no, this is going to cost you a fortune. You know, they're only the mechanics in days of old, you know. So how does the average punter out there like me know that they're getting value for money, they're not being taken for a ride?
I suppose that can prove difficult. If you've got somebody that you're already maybe paying for that service, or you have an IT person that looks after you, they can all do a fairly competent job, but maybe they don't have quite the specialist skills. So what I would always say is you could always ask for, like in the medical world, you could ask for a second opinion. So you could have somebody come in and independently take a look at something. It could take half an hour, maybe a bit longer, depends on what level of detail you want to get into. And I would happily have a chat with anybody, over a call, or on Skype or whatever platform you want to use. So it's just I can give you a sense of what you should have maybe, and what I can provide to you, to go in and take a look at your setup and see if it passes muster. If there's anything that maybe has been missed, because sometimes an IT person, in fairness to them, they do great jobs, but sometimes they might miss something, or they might not be aware of something that's new and that's happening.
I love it, Liam. I love it. You've used a phrase there, and again, you've simplified your world for us. Thank you for that. You said, like a medical situation, you ask for a second opinion. I don't know if I would ever have considered asking for a second opinion in the tech world, but all of a sudden you've given us permission to do that. I reached out to Liam, as you all know, yesterday because of what happened yesterday, and in the course of that conversation, I asked him would he consider coming on today, and it was a no-brainer. He just said, of course, yes, and now he's here today. So please, anybody that's having a question mark in your head around what's going on in your cyber world, feel free to reach out to this man. Highly recommend him, because I'm comforted as a result of the work that he did with me yesterday. Liam, before we go to Q&A from the floor, touch briefly on the world that you see post-COVID. Then I'm going to ask you for a tip for us all. World post-COVID, what's it look like?
Yeah, certainly I believe there will be a lot more, of remote working. And this was one of the things, I suppose, with COVID, it kind of came at us very quickly. And the situation developed in Ireland very rapidly, where the lockdown came in, and business had been then struggling to set up the work from home environment. And, that proved to be a challenge for some of them. And they, in some cases, I believe, they were letting their staff use their own personal devices for accessing company data, which is not something that, I would highly, counsel against using such a solution, because, you don't have control, the company doesn't have control of that person's personal device, and they could potentially, run out the door with, data belonging to the company. So the company should always have their, provided their own solutions. But, this work from home environment, if it has worked for you in the COVID-19 era, it would be something you might want to look at, certainly going into the future, if it has been proved suitable. I know I was talking to one of my former colleagues in Aon there about 6 months ago, and he was telling me that their Dublin office now is set up so that they only have seating for 80% of their staff. So, everybody can, they 80% can come in and sit in the office and work in the office and, in a hot desking environment, but the other 20 will be working from home. So, as I say, if it works for you, make sure you have it, it's set up appropriately, and, if it can work for you and your staff, that's great. Like, I found one of the big benefits I found with, me from working from home for myself, like, for the last few years, is that I can control my day. I know when I can, get the hell out here and walk my dogs. And I actually plan my day around my daily walk with the dogs, and I have done so for years. So that's really has been important to me. And, if you have staff that do work from home, give them the flexibility to be able to, do those type of planning. When I worked for Aon, I did it as well, and I used to work into the evening time because I would take off sometime during the day to walk the dogs.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. If it's working for you through COVID, why wouldn't it work for you, or at least in part post-COVID? Second thing that you touched on there, which I think is really interesting, is that you can schedule your day and take the dogs for a walk and whatnot. And if I'm not mistaken, we won't get into this now, but if I'm not mistaken, I think there are studies done that remote working in the main is more productive overall. I can't stand over that today. I'm just putting it out there for people to consider. John Barry's on. John's in the HR world for the last while, and so we might have a conversation with that sometime, John. Liam, we're going to go to Q&A from the floor. It's been an absolute pleasure having you come on today and give us your layman speak of a black art world that we're all a little bit afraid of, but however we've all got to live with. Before we do there, what one tip could you offer us to stay safe, either online or personally, through COVID? Sure.
So I suppose part and parcel of what I would normally provide in my training is about learning how to spot dodgy emails and messages from people. But with COVID, it's become very much kind of more concentrated. It's more they're getting more effective because everybody is in this situation. It's a crazy situation, so there's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, in everybody. And if you receive any kind of a message, whether it be an email or a WhatsApp or a text, or you see something on social media, if it causes you if it causes an emotional reaction in you, if you suddenly get, oh, Jesus, that's terrible, or going, oh, I must share this information with all my friends. This really looks shocking. If something causes an emotional reaction in which you should pause, take 5 seconds, take 10 seconds, just pause and just think about it. You don't want to. What these guys want you to do is react straight away, and by reacting straight away, you might just, again, share stuff, or you might click on a link, or you might open a document you shouldn't do. So, if something causes an emotional reaction, pause, think about it, and don't share stuff, particularly stuff you get on social media, unless it's coming from a proper official source like the HSE or the government. Don't share it, because, even though it might seem, possible or plausible, it's probably not. Okay, Liam, that's wonderful. Thank you for that. That's a very practical tip for us all. Pause, hit the pause button before you hit the send button. Love it. We're going to go to Q&A from the floor, Liam. I see Sandra Losty there.
Lovely. Thanks, Colm, and thanks, Liam. Really enjoyed your talk. Liam, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on these attacks on the Zoom rooms. I've experienced that myself, and it's horrendous. I can't even begin to tell you how bad it was. And like yourself, Colm, you just can't unsee that stuff or unhear it, But I'm wondering, do you think these people are going around looking for specific types of topics of rooms to disrupt, or is it Zoom itself that it's attacking to reduce its credibility?
It's more than likely they're going after just random meetings that they become aware of. There's actually groups in kind of internet chat rooms out there that if they become aware of a Zoom meeting link, they'll search social media sites and they'll Google stuff and they'll look for what a Zoom meeting link looks like. It's got a fairly standard kind of structure. So they scan for those things and they put them into these, I said, internet chat rooms, and just some guy will pick it up and say, right, I'm going to go into this guy. They don't care who it is. They'll just go in. If they can break into it, then they'll put up whatever shocking information or material they want to do. So it's probably not targeted for the most part. It's just, more like what you might call graffiti artists. They're just randomly going around carrying out these attacks.
Thank you, Sandra. That was a really pertinent question. And again, I am sorry to hear that you had some bad luck recently. But here we are today again, Sandra. So welcome back online, and we're all back on here together. Once again, I want to just say thank you to everybody for the outpouring of love and support that came our way yesterday, and in particular to all of you who got out and changed your plans today to be here this morning. Very much appreciated, one and all. I'm going to go to Princess Shelley, who's going to tell us what's been going on in the cafe while you and I were having the chat. Princess Shelley, you're live.
Hello, everybody. Very good morning to everybody. Great interview there, Liam. Very insightful. Edwina Flynn is with us today. Edwina is a regular participant in the cafe. Edwina started by saying pretty much as soon as she entered in the cafe today, a very good morning to everyone, and a big shout out to Colm, I think, appreciating the really rich content we're all getting every day, and she's rejoicing, woohoo, the cafe is packed. So yeah, thanks for that, Edwina. I can see you grinning as I'm reading this out. Edwina also said that, Colm, you're excelling as you always do in sharing your experience with all of us, and now we can learn from this and put proper measures and procedures in place. She intends on doing a Zoom virtual viewing next week, but she had been reluctant due to the security element. So thanks to Colm for giving us all this opportunity to learn, and Liam for providing such the great learning for us, I also have Nicola Connolly mentioned as well when you were telling us about your earlier training, and that, Liam, that she also studied COBOL. So that obviously kind of resonated a little bit with her, a little bit of familiarity there. And I also have two very quick questions. Arlene asked Liam, is there anything we need to add to our Zoom meetings to add an extra layer of security? If you wanted to comment on that.
Sure. In fact, Colm not only listened to me yesterday, and while we went through the Zoom settings and making sure the cafe is appropriately secured, but he actually put together an extremely thorough Facebook post there last night with the settings that he changed and reasons why he changed them. So it depends on your setup. I would always have recommended you put a password on the Zoom meeting, which is one of the kind of the first options you should turn on. You can then set, you don't have to actually, share that password separately if you don't want to, but you can set it such that the password will be included in the link for the Zoom meeting, so that if somebody has the link, they just click on the link and they'll go into the Zoom meeting and the password will be entered for them. Now, this would be ideal for your private meetings or private groups that you're doing, because the cafe is such an open and public thing where we want people to be able to drop in willy-nilly. So and Colm posts the link on the social media, so that would get out there. So even if you had a password on the link, if you were sharing it like that, so share it on social media, then anybody will be able to come in with that. But there are a few other options that are available, such like the waiting room is another feature. So again, that's not something that suits this particular type of environment, the cafe. But if you've invited 5 people or 10 people to a Zoom meeting, you can enable the waiting room, so they will go and they'll come into the waiting room. You'll see, there's John, he's joining now, let him in. And who's this Frank? I don't know any Frank. No, I didn't invite him. So you don't let him into the meeting. Also, turning off screen sharing, so that the screen sharing would only be allowed by the host of the meeting. By default, it used to be on that everybody could screen share, and that's basically what those evildoers are doing with the Zoom bombing. They come in, they share the screen, they put up nasty material, and they move on. So that's an important one. And also file sharing. There's a file sharing setting that people could potentially share images or videos on the chat, so you can turn that off, so that nobody can put that kind of a material into the.
There on everybody's screen, everybody's making notes of all the great tips that you're giving, Liam. Suddenly it's gone from lots of faces to lots of foreheads, so that's really good, and it kind of, your answer kind of addresses Eamon's question as well, who also asked, Liam, would you have any tips for those of us who are hosting Zoom meetings and programs? So you've kind of addressed that as well. So I think there's half a dozen there, really, really good tips. I'm not sure if anyone else has a question. If you want to raise your hand, guys, then either call yourself.
Yeah, well, if anybody's got a question, Nicola, we'll bring you in a second. Prince, Shelley, I'm going to hand back to you in a second to bring Nicola in, if that's okay.
Yeah.
But I was just fascinated by that conversation there. And it struck me that what Liam did for me yesterday was he basically came into my computer remotely as an observer and watched my screen, and he helped me check and uncheck the right buttons. Is that okay? Yeah, because I don't live in this tech world. It's gobbledygook for me, right? So that's what he did for me, and I'd recommend highly anybody out there running groups, hire this man for an hour. Okay, he'll give you more than the hour anyway. He'll give you more than you've ever bargained for, but you'll feel comforted after it. So I recommend that you would do that. But beautiful. This is just a beautiful show. Thank you very much. Prince, back to you.
Well, again, Edwina has said that she's been using the waiting room and appreciates the tip on the password. If the host has the control, that is hugely important. So yeah, Edwina's already delighted with that tip. I have a question from Nicola, and if anyone else has one, we'll come to you in a moment. Just before I do go to Nicola, I would say, Liam, as well, that whilst you're a cybersecurity expert, listening to your delivery, you're a translator, because you bring us all who don't live in the tech world. And there's also an element of life coach when you say, when you react to something and you have an emotional response. I've never heard a kind of techie head kind of talk about it like that, and it's really refreshing. I'm not sure is it intentional, but I certainly makes it very easy to understand for me. Nicole, I'm going to come to you. You are now unmuted, and your question, Nicole?
Good morning all, and congratulations, Colm, on an absolutely fantastic coffee with Colm morning, given all that you had to sustain yesterday. But my question for you, Liam, is this. I've used Zoom very successfully for a long time, and thankfully I have never been Zoom bombed. However, myself and Marina Brannigan, my VA, who's on this call, changed our security settings yesterday following, a lot of people who've had this particularly negative experience. But my question for you, Liam, is this. If this ever did happen and I was, in control of the meeting at the time, what is the quickest way to shut the shit show down?
Sure. So there's a very quick and simple way of doing it. If you have the managed participants panel open, and if somebody has come in, sharing some nasty material, you go to that and you remove them. You the button beside, I think it's an arrow or dots beside it, their name, and you remove them from the meeting. Mm. Now there is one other setting in Zoom that is to you disable a setting that's called allow removed participants to rejoin, because if you don't turn that on, they'll be able to come back in.
Okay.
You have that setting set, they won't be able to rejoin the meeting.
Okay, so we need to add that on as an extra layer of security, because I was just thinking, if I was in that position, Liam, I might just have an immediate reaction. It's like if you're walking across the road and a bus comes. I might have the immediate reaction in a meeting to literally close down my laptop. But even if I close down my laptop, that Zoom meeting is still going ahead.
Yeah.
So I want to just, as Marina says, take a considered approach to how I'm going to handle this going forward. So the quickest way for you, that you're telling us, is to literally to remove them and continue on with whatever, if you're in a position to continue, to just continue.
Nicola, if I may come in this, it's lovely to see Anna, and Nicola is one of my very good friends who shifted her day around today to be here. Nicola, really appreciate that. And last night, happy days. Anyway, come here. So this happened yesterday. It was real, okay? And it was a shit show, to use the vernacular. And I didn't know what to do. Rabbit in the headlights. I don't know how long. I really don't, and I'm not going to go back to the recording. I record everything in the cloud. I'm not going to go back to check how long. It doesn't matter, right? But what I knew to do instinctively, rather than removing the person, was I shut down the meeting. I'm the host. I went straight to end meeting, and it ended for everybody. Okay, because the fear is if laptop, the meeting's still running. If you're looking to see which fecker is the offender, I just think that my recommendation based on what happened yesterday is shut down the meeting. You know?
Going to be in a lucky position tomorrow with my meeting, Colm, is that I'll have the pleasure of having, like you have people helping you now, I'll have Marina Brannigan there with me to manage that element of it. And we're not creating a cafe situation, we're creating a real life meeting. So we're going to have the waiting room. So at least we have control over to some degree. So our options now are end meeting for all or remove the person. That there are our worst case scenario, doomsday scenario options.
Yeah, absolutely. And just on that, Nick, only this morning, Eamon Smith's good friend offered to help last night as co-host. And so I spoke to him first thing this morning. He's come on, he's the bouncer in the cafe today, right? And
brilliant.
Aaron's been scanning. His only function is to watch everybody in the room, and any messing, you were out the gap.
Love it.
No questions asked, out the gap, because we'll fight about it afterwards. Somebody wants to take it. Right.
No mercy, just compassion. Gone. Good luck.
And Eamon isn't even Liam Lynch. Imagine Liam Lynch doing this stuff, right? But look, come here. It's Nicola, thank you for that, and I hope that helps.
You're welcome, and thanks a million for the info. It's fantastic.
Pleasure. Folks, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure, as all of these Coffee at 11 shows have been. All of them different, all surprising, all, open and honest and caring. And that's why I was so upset yesterday. And that's why today had to happen. And I really appreciate, you've no idea how much I appreciate the fact that you people all took time out today, specifically because I asked, would you come on as a show of force against evil and say, we're going to do this thing. And Liam Lynch, my very special guest for today, namaste. It's been an absolute pleasure. You were the right guest. You're the right person to turn up at the right time for us all. So let's give Liam Lynch the Coffee at 11 round of applause. Hope you can see that, Liam. Hope you're on gallery view. Outpouring over there. Before I let you all go, and once again, heartfelt thanks to you all. Let me tell you about what's happening on the Coffee at 11 show tomorrow, because we are back and we're staying back, right? And tomorrow, the lovely Sharon McDermott from Cork is coming on, and Sharon is in Cork, from Cork and back in Cork, having had a sojourn in Turkey, which I'm quite sure we'll hear about tomorrow. Very exciting background. And Sharon runs this beautiful business called Kai Kai Kids, KYKY Kids. And it's on the back of her son. His name is Kaya. And she has this stunningly beautiful clothing range for children. So I'm so excited to be meeting Sharon McDermott in the Coffee at 11 Cafe tomorrow. And I'd ask that if you've got time, please come back and join us. And of course, the replays will be put out 24 hours later. Is that okay? So once again, Liam Lynch, an absolute pleasure. Thank you. Folks, check out Liam Lynch. Go talk to him. Have a conversation. The links are all there. Namaste. See you, Liam.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for listening to me.